Welcome to this explainer. If you think the greatest wonders of antiquity are just the pyramids or Roman aqueducts, well, think again. Today, we're unpacking 7 absolutely incredible ancient technologies. Things like massive modular weapons and underground factories that were centuries ahead of their time. These are machines that honestly shouldn't have existed when they did, yet they function flawlessly before completely vanishing from human memory.
Progress is not a straight line from the cave to the spaceship. I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly captures what we're talking about today. We're so used to assuming that technology just constantly marches forward. But as you'll see, human ingenuity is actually much more fragile and honestly, a lot more fascinating.
Act 1. Colossal Ships of Antiquity, featuring the Tessaracan Terrace. Let's start in the early 2nd century BC. Pharaoh Ptolemy IV built this massive wooden catamaran for one reason: to flex the muscle of the Ptolemaic Empire in Alexandria. It wasn't for trade, it was literally a floating crown, a pure, undeniable demonstration of absolute power over the Mediterranean. To put that into perspective, just picture a structure the size of a modern 6-story building, weighing 4,000 tons, moving through the water without a single engine. This wooden titan was an unbelievable 130 meters long and 22 meters high. When it left the harbor, its massive hull literally blocked out the sight of entire coastal streets. It's just mind-boggling. 4,000. That is the sheer number of rowers it took to move this thing. 4,000 humans working strictly in sync across multiple tiers, alongside almost 3,000 Marines and 400 sailors. To keep the oars from tangling, rowers used oars of varying lengths, hitting the water at perfectly precise angles. It was moved entirely by human hands, a feat we've never replicated using just wood, not in the age of sail, steam, or even today. Now look at this timeline of Emperor Caligula's Nemi ships. These were 75-meter floating palaces built in the 1st century with marble decking, plumbing, and hot and cold running water. In the 1920s, engineers spent 5 years draining an entire volcanic lake just to retrieve them. They miraculously survived for 2,000 years underwater, only to be burned to ashes in a single night during World War II in 1944. What the sea protected for 2 millennia, we lost in just hours.
Act 2. The dawn of mass production, specifically the Barbago watermills. Let's jump over to 2nd century AD France and look at early industrialization, a full 1,600 years before the actual Industrial Revolution. This wasn't some quaint little village mill. Imagine the deafening roar of 16 synchronized water wheels working in a cascade down a hillside. This complex used standardized parts to churn out 4.5 tons of flour daily, enough to feed 10,000 people. Water from a distant aqueduct powered massive wooden gears in a continuous, incredibly efficient flow. It was a true factory floor, centuries before factories were even a concept. Act 3. The dark side of progress. The Rio Tinto mines. Because ancient progress often came with a horrifying price tag. The Romans engineered these copper and silver mines in Spain to be the absolute pinnacle of resource extraction to fund their empire. But deep underground, it hid a terrifying reality.
The Rio Tinto wheels were an 8-tier hydraulic pumping system that lifted floodwaters 30 meters up. But here is the crucial point. This highly efficient system wasn't turned by water. It was turned by enslaved human beings operating in total darkness. 2 to 4 men stood inside each wheel, endlessly stepping. The air was thick with toxic sulfuric acid, and slaves here lived an average of only 1.5 years. When one collapsed, another was immediately forced to take his place. It really forces us to pause and ask, would you accept an industrial revolution at the cost of human lives? When we look at all these incredible ancient achievements, we have to remember that every shiny Roman coin and marble statue was paid for by a machine constructed quite literally out of human suffering.
Act 4. Automation and modular warfare with Eastern innovations. To shake off that grim reality, let's travel to ancient China, where machinery was designed to replace human labor entirely, without the horrific human toll we just saw.
Take the Sichuan trip hammer. Powered completely by the force of a river, a single wooden water wheel with 8 pins triggered 8 massive iron hammers. We're talking 445 newtons of crushing force per strike on grain or iron ore. And the best part? 0 human operators required. It did the work of 10 men and ran all night with just a single caretaker outside. Europe wouldn't see anything like this until the late Middle Ages.
And Chinese engineers applied this exact same brilliance to warfare.
Check out this fire rate comparison for the Chuko Nu. A standard crossbow took 20 seconds to reload. The Chuko Nu? It fired a bolt every 1.5 seconds. In an era of swords and spears, a regiment of 1,000 men could unleash 8,000 bolts in just 1 minute. It was, for all intents and purposes, the ancient world's machine gun.
It all worked on a brilliantly simple one-lever mechanism, using just 4 wooden and bamboo parts. Step 1, tension the string. Step 2, load the bolt from the 8-shot magazine. Step 3, pull the trigger. One fluid push and pull of a lever executed all 3 actions simultaneously. A soldier could unleash 8 bolts in just 12 seconds, with practically zero training.
It is widely considered the first modular weapon in history with standardized interchangeable parts. Because every component was cut from exact templates, if a piece broke, you could instantly swap it out right there on the battlefield. This design was so flawless, it stayed in continuous military service for 2 millennia, last seeing major combat in 1895. The rest of Eurasia wouldn't adopt interchangeable parts for another 2,000 years. Act V, the ultimate siege machine at Masada in 73 AD. For our final marvel, we head to the unforgiving Judean desert. 10,000 Roman troops were facing an impenetrable 400-meter-high cliff fortress held by Judean rebels. The geography made it immune to a traditional siege, but the Roman military machine refused to take no for an answer. So, Roman commander Lucius Flavius Silva ordered the construction of the impossible ramp. They quite literally built an artificial mountain in the desert. It was 200 meters long, 20 stories high, and constructed through brutal labor under a punishing sun in just 2 months. They built a perfect incline leading straight up to the fortress walls. And up that ramp rolled the Helepolis. This was a 40-meter-tall, multi-story iron giant. Plated in iron to resist fire and arrows, bristling with heavy catapults, and featuring a massive drop bridge. The name literally translates to Taker of Cities, and it relentlessly brought the Roman war machine right to the rebels' doorstep. Faced with this terrifying, unstoppable machine, nearly 1,000 defenders made the tragic choice of mass suicide rather than face inevitable capture and enslavement by the Romans. History records that when the Romans finally breached the walls the next morning, they were met with a haunting silence, leaving only 2 women and 5 children to actually recount the tale.
These technologies were never built again anywhere else in the world. The Masada Tower was dismantled, the giant Egyptian ships vanished, the blueprints for Roman automated ballistas were lost. It's a chilling, recurring theme. Once the empires fell, or the immediate need just passed, the timber rotted, the iron rusted away, and the knowledge was totally forgotten.
Act 6, the zigzag of progress. Which brings us to a harsh conclusion. We tend to view technological advancement as this unstoppable upward curve, but the truth is, it wanders in a zigzag. We invent incredible, world-changing things, only to lose them in the dark corners of time. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Is progress simply inventing the new, or is it our ability to remember and protect what was already found? From a 130-meter catamaran to automated trip hammers, history has proven we are wildly capable, but terrible at holding on to our own magic. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep